Good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled Community Development Regulatory Services Committee. The date is May 2nd, 2017. My name is Jacob Fry. I'm the chair of this committee, and I am joined by a quorum, including council members Kano, Quincy, and Reich. We are indeed a quorum of this committee. We've got 18 items on the agenda for today. First, I'm going to move the consent items, and I'll kind of read through exactly what they are. Item number 11. Some liquor, business, and gambling licenses. Number 12 is a business license operating conditions for Charbel Petroleum Co. Doing business as Tesoro Riverside Shop at 2517 Riverside Ave. 13 is authorizing an amendment to an existing home loan to Portland Village LP, which reduces the loan interest rate from 6.09 to 0 for all interest accruing in the future. 14 is a passage of a resolution granting approval for Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority to undertake a housing project on behalf of Easttown Apartments. 15, contract amendments with Minnesota Home Ownership Center, specifically increasing a contract for administration and oversight. Second, increasing a contract to cover payments on counseling agencies. And third, increasing a contract for the financial and home ownership counseling services by a network of counseling agencies. Item number 16 is an agreement with MHFA, authorizing an agreement to receive and use the predictive cost model to assisting cost containment for affordable housing. 17 is approving a waiver of the 60-day waiting period set forth in Chapter 249 of the Minnesota Code of Ordinances, and that's for 4108 Beard Avenue South. Number 18 is referring to staff the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 13, Chapter 267, which is relating to licenses and business regulations, amusements, adding and amending provisions and relating to places of adult entertainment. And I will go ahead and move items 11 through 18. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick technical item. I was speaking with the clerk a little bit earlier today. Item number 15, we probably might want to consider having a simple referral to Ways and Means. It is a contract and involves some money, and it's just an extension. It'll be on consent at Ways and Means, but for technical purposes, I'd like to add that as a referral item. Other than that, simple.
I agree with Councilmember Quincy. I think that makes sense to send it over to Ways and Means.
Thank you.
I will move all items, noting that item number 15 should be referred to Ways and Means. Any further discussion on items 11 through 18 in the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. That those items pass. Moving on to the public hearings, I'm going to start with item number 1, which is the 2017 Consolidated Action Plan. Here to present is Mr. Bauer.
Good afternoon, Chair Fry and members of the committee. This is a public hearing for the 2017 Consolidated Plan Action Plan. This is our annual application to the Department of Housing and Urban Development for our Federal Community Development Block Grant, Home Investment Partnerships, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS funding. We are also asking for authority to submit the plan to HUD by August 16th of this year, after we are notified of our official award amounts from HUD, as well as directing finance staff to make adjustments to the Schedule 4 in the 2017 general resolution budget to reflect that actual budget, and also to direct staff to incur pre-award costs as of our program year start of June 1st. This would allow us to get contracts underway effective that date for 2017 programming. And that's a report.
Any questions for Mr. Bauer? No? Thank you. Well, I will go ahead and open the public hearing for the 2017 Consolidated Action Plan. Anyone here to speak to this item? Anyone here to speak to this item? Anyone here to speak to this item? See that nobody's here. I will, Councilmember Reich?
Move approval of this item.
Councilmember Reich has moved approval of this item. Is there any discussion on the Consolidated Plan Action Plan? No? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no, and that item passes. Item number 2 is a modification, number 3, to the Consolidated Redevelopment Tax Increment Financing Plan. And here to speak, it's also a referral to the Ways and Means,
No.
you're saying? Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I got it right here. Here to speak on that one is Mark Winkling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members. Mark Winkelhake, Director of Development Finance. In the report before you, staff is recommending passage of the attached resolution approving modification number 3 to the Consolidated Tax Increment Financing Plan. This is a simple modification that updates the tax increment budget in the TIF plan. The budget shows the maximum amount of tax increment that can be collected from the district over its 10-year life, which is 2011 through 2020. Since property values in the city have been increasing since 2014, current projections indicate that the TIF district will be able to generate $180,180,000 over its life. And this is the maximum amount that's allowed under the Memorandum of Understanding between the city and the county that was signed back in 2010 when the TIF district was established. This maximum amount will be sufficient to pay off the 2009 Target Center bonds, pay operational costs of NCR department through 2020, and also restore approximately $9.14 million in funding to neighborhood action plans phase 2 NRP. As you may recall, in earlier this year, in early February, the council authorized use of tax increment revenue to restore the NRP funding contingent upon approval of this modification. Because the tax increment budget is being increased, that requires a public hearing pursuant to state statute. Notifications were sent to the county, school district, and all neighborhood groups. We received one response, which is a letter of support from the Columbia Park Neighborhood Association. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Winkelhake. What's the, how much are we over what was originally anticipated in terms of funding?
Well, we started, Mr. Chair, council members, we started out back in 2010 with projections at about 163 million total. This is gross increment. Then the TIF district was shrunk for 2 years by 50%. The budget was adjusted at that time downward to about 147 million. And that was back in 2011. So it's been quite a few years since we've updated the budget. And since that time, tax increment from the district is increased significantly. So we went from basically 147 million up to the 180 million.
Okay. And that's in total, that's on an annual basis. What is that?
That's in total.
Yeah.
And from that total amount, there are certain categories that can be paid for. A large chunk of it is sent back to the county as reimbursement. And then we pay some administrative costs. And from the remainder, you have two eligible uses: debt service on Target Center bonds and neighborhood revitalization purposes,
Right.
which is a broad category.
So I'll comment briefly. This is a really good thing. It does not get the attention that it deserves. Target Center is getting paid off. We then have 33 million extra dollars that can go to a combination of the county and NRP and specifically to our neighborhoods. And, you know, I want to make very clear that to say that you are, you know, pro neighborhoods getting funding, but then anti some of the development that's taking place along the riverfront. And this is the TIF district right here. I mean, this is the ward in which I represent, and a lot of people have done work certainly prior to my time, even on the council. But this is tax revenue. This is a good thing, and the fact that we're able to pay off these these bonds and then some, I think is an excellent, it's an excellent conclusion. So thank you. Does anybody else have any? Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're exactly right, and thank you for pointing that out. I think that really is evidence, because when we made the shrink of the size of the district, we did that intentionally, and the purpose was to return money to the general fund for property tax relief. That was a different time then. We were facing a much different property tax scenario that was just coming in to the changes at LGA at the state level. It was remarkable. So this really represents a promise to restoring those funding, which we were able to do in February, contingent on this refinancing or this modification. But it's the winner on this is the taxpayers, because now we're able to restore that amount, and that's what represents growth in the city. So it's because of the wise fiscal relationship that we've had with the tax district and the relationship we have with our taxpayers. This is a significant thing, and it is certainly worth much more comment on it. So thank you for pointing that out, and thank you, Mr. Wegley, for all of your work you guys, finance, and everybody in CPAD does to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, thanks for highlighting this. I mean, it's a very significant thing, and we should just reiterate this. We cut the district in half, and now, because it's performing so well, that half is now overperforming what was once double. I mean, and so with half the district, we're outperforming the old economic situation prior to that. So that's a highly performing area. And there's a generalized sort of connection between, a robust central core and the overall health of a city. But here we, years ago, and continuing with this notion, we make it explicit. We explicitly said as a city that to invest and have a thriving downtown, that we explicitly will send dollars out to the community, so you don't have that shining downtown and deteriorating outer ring of the city. And that's decades in the making. I think that's good policy. Also should be noted, not only do we make it explicit by sending it back out, it's on a need-based formula. The dollars are allocated to the communities, greater dollars for greater need. I think that's classic liberal policy, and I think we here in the city of Minneapolis enact it year in, year out. Like Councilmember Fry said, this is policies that predates us, but we are reinvesting in this notion that we're one Minneapolis in many ways, even economically.
That's right. Any further questions for staff? Thank you so much for your work on this. This is a big deal. So I'm going to open the public hearing for the Consolidated TIF District item. Does anybody want to talk about this? Does anybody want to talk about this? Anybody? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. I will move approval of this item. And I just hope there's some more coverage on this. I really do, because this is millions upon tens and tens of millions of dollars, and it'll have a gigantic impact on our neighborhood. And the hope is that it'll narrow this divide between it'll decrease this narrative of it's downtown versus the neighborhoods, because it does not need to be the case. I've moved approval of this item. Any discussion? All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. That item passes. Item number 3 is the MPLS Juice LLC doing business as Truce at 120 First Avenue. It's approving an application for a sidewalk cafe. Here to present is, I have no idea. Who's presenting?
Mr. Chair.
That's you. All right.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Take it away, Grant.
We do have an application by Minneapolis Juice LLC doing business as Truce, and they operate at 120 First Avenue North in Minneapolis. They're seeking a sidewalk cafe license, and they're located in the North Loop neighborhood in the 3rd Ward. This will be a small sidewalk cafe featuring 2 tables, 4 chairs each. Truce Juice does mainly a wholesale juice business, but they do have a deli with grab-and-go foods and salads and things, and it fronts First Avenue. A public hearing is required for the sidewalk cafe portion of this license. We did notify all residents and property owners within 300 feet, and the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association and the North Loop Neighborhood Association. Of today's public hearing, we received no responses for or against the application. Staff finds they meet all the requirements, and we recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody here to comment on Truce? Are the owners of Truce here by chance? No? Anyone here to comment? Anyone here to comment? I'll move approval of this item. It's really great to see that First Avenue is coming alive. You know, I've been saying for quite some time that we need to move away from First being just this throughway for transportation and really more focused on the pedestrian. So as we expand the sidewalks, as we get some additional activity there, I think it's really a place that can be highlighted. So I'll go ahead and move approval of item number 3. I'm sorry. I'll close the public hearing. And I will move approval of that item. Anybody here to discuss? Anybody want to discuss? All right. All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no, and that item passes. Item number 4 is Penny's Coffee at 100 Washington Avenue, approving an application for an on-sale liquor with Sunday sales Class D license, and rescinding the business license and operating conditions with strong beer license. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Penny's Coffee at 100 Washington Avenue South has operated there since August of 2016. They've now are seeking just to adjust their seating count to expand from 34 seats to 46 on the interior and adding 20 seats on an outdoor patio. They did have some SAC fee restrictions that prohibited them from doing this in the past, so we're recommending that you lift any license conditions and expand their premises to suit their needs. A public hearing is required for the outdoor expansion. We notified all residents and property owners within 300 feet, and the Downtown Neighborhood Association. We received one response from our mailing, and that response was in support of the application, and staff recommends approval of this application.
Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone here to speak to this item? Anyone here to speak on Penny's? Yes, all right.
Hi, my name is Michael Lisi. I'm the Director of Operation at Penny's. We're just excited to serve the community, and this expansion will help us do so. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate the investment there. Anyone else want to speak to this item? Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll move approval myself as well, and just say thank you to Michael and the entire Penny's team over there with Ben and Dean. This was a major gap, I think, on Washington Avenue that has now been, I think, revitalized and cured. And you know, I appreciate the fact that you're consistently coming back in to try and do more, whether it's sidewalks or it's booze or the tremendous crepes you have, which you don't need approval from the city on at all, but they're good. They're good. So I have moved approval of this item. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those approval, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That item passes. Item number 5 is Sonora Grill. Sonora Grill, LLC, doing business as Sonora Grill. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Sonora Grill at 3300 East Lake Street is seeking a permanent expansion of premises today for an expansion of their outdoor patio area. They operate currently with an on-sale wine and strong beer license, Class D, and they have operated that way for a few years in a very responsible manner, by the way. They're adding 48 seats to their existing patio, which is on the west side of their building, and that will give them a total patio seating area of 68 seats. This is in the Longfellow neighborhood in Ward 2. The exterior hours of operation will remain at from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, and they are open till 10 p.m. during the week inside and till midnight on Friday and Saturday inside. A public hearing is required for this application. We notified all residents and property owners within 300 feet. We also notified the Longfellow Community Council and the Longfellow Business Association. We received 2 responses to our mailing of today's public hearing. Both of those responses were opposed. The first one indicated they anticipate this expansion on the patio will create more noise and parking issues on their block. And the second one dealt with the fence and patio are encroaching on the interior boulevard of the public right-of-way. We did research that matter, and there is an encroachment permit the whole length of the west side of the building to encroach 5 feet up to the sidewalk line for a patio block and fence line. They are seeking further encroachment to expand their patio 20 foot to the north down that line of 33rd Avenue. And we will expect the traffic engineer and public works department to approve that encroachment extension. With that, that concludes my report. Staff's recommending approval of this application. And we'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for staff on the Sonora Grill? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing for Sonora Grill. Anyone here to speak to this item? Come on up, sir. You can state your name as well as your address, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman and council members. My name is Daniel Seyfert. Live at 2933 33rd Avenue South. I share the north property line with this property. I've been in my home for 33 years. I'm opposed. Parking is already, there is no parking. At any given, even this weekend, it was pouring rain. They weren't even using their patio. There was no parking on our street. The employees of not only them, but Precision Tune tend to park on the street to begin with. They're there more hours than customers. Customers tend to park on the street before they use the lot. I suppose they don't want to get their doors dinged. The lot isn't big enough for what they have now. Across the street from me, which is within 100 feet of Sonora's, there's a 3-story apartment building. Every night after business hours, we have pretty much 12 to 14 vehicles parking on our street from that apartment building, plus Sonora's. I noticed when they were reading about this, they kept referring to the west side of the building. I want to make clear that the west side of the building is already all outside seating. What they're going to be going is north of the building on the west side. I heard that it was 20 feet, but I didn't hear 20 feet by what? I haven't seen a site plan or anything. I'd like to know some things like that. I'm wondering if you people actually know there's most likely 3 businesses operating out of that building. It was originally built for an Embers. There's a repair layer in there. And during the summer, the last couple of summers, Sonora's has been running I don't know if you'd call it a festival van or a catering van or not a van, but a trailer. And it takes up a couple of parking spaces, one for the trailer when it's there, another for carts that, I've seen them dozens of times out there. So there's lots of parking spaces there. They lose a couple parking spaces because they don't use their dumpster area. Their dumpsters are outside of their dumpster area. All hurting our street. But right now our street is full. It's full. 48 more seats. This is not acceptable in any way. There's very minimal parking on Lake Street. There's nothing anywhere else around. And actually, one of my neighbors is here from 2 doors down, and they have large families. Well, we don't get to park out front. If we do, it's all the way down the other end of the block. I also take exception with this easement or city property. Right in the letter it states on private property. Well, I'm pretty sure that city owns or has some sort of easement of 2 to 3 feet. And it's like, well, that's already on their existing patio, not to mention the proposed expansion. It's like, well, why does the city want somebody serving alcohol on their property? It's pretty big liability in my book. Another thing is if this is going to go through, I want to make sure that there's no access to the parking lot from this thing. No climbing over the wall. I mean, we already have people twice in the last 2 weeks. I've seen people urinate on my front boulevard. Watch them leave the bar, come out, do it on the boulevard. I've seen them in the parking lot. I mean, it happens at every bar. I chose to live where I do, but 48 seats is totally ridiculous for an expansion, especially when they don't even hold the whole building. And most likely are running 3 businesses. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I don't think you can run a catering business underneath a restaurant license. Do you guys know that they have a license for that? I don't know, because that's taking up more space. You know, questions of me?
No, we don't do kind of question and answer here, but,
Okay.
but while you're up here, sir, can you state your name and your address, please?
I did.
Okay, I apologize. I missed. Did you get that down? Okay, good. Anything further?
I would like to know the actual square footage. I heard 20 feet. So they're coming 20 foot north. I heard from a council person or an inspector that they're going to get rid of a parking spot.
So I will just ask that question of our staff following the public hearing, as this is not kind of a back and forth.
Okay. Is there another way to see a site plan review? I mean, not today, if whatever. I mean, normally I've dealt with you guys 20, 25 years ago, and we usually get to see things and, you know.
We don't do the back and forth. It's just you're supposed to provide testimony. You have, and thank you, sir. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Is there anyone else that's here to speak to this item? Come on up. Please state your name and your address, please.
Hello, guys. My name is Conrado Badilla, co-owner of Sonora Grill. I would love to show you what I'm doing. I can do it at the restaurant. We've had a really good relationship with businesses along Lake Street and the neighborhood people. We've been open there for 3 years and a half. It's going to be 4 years, December 19. Like you already mentioned earlier, we already have a patio there. We would love to be able to expand the patio. I have 26 parking spaces, and on the weekends we are able to use the lot from the shop next door. They let us do that after they close, and our regular customers they know that, and a lot of them park over there.
How many spaces in the lot next door?
Say that again.
How many spaces in the lot next door?
It's only like, I haven't counted, but it's only like 10. Not many.
Okay.
Not many. It does get busy. I agree. It does get busy on the weekends. Weeknights, it usually doesn't for us. But I don't have control over people deciding to park on the street rather than in the parking lot. Since we opened the restaurant, we've only had one event. It was Cinco de Mayo, 2013. I've never had another event. We were part of an event 2 years ago, which is called Taco Tour, but they don't take over the restaurant. It's just people walking along Lake Street eating food in different restaurants. Other than that, we have never had any other event. So I have only had one license pull for an event. I haven't done anything else. Other than that, I would appreciate being able to provide more seating for people during the summer, because, you know, in Minnesota, everybody wants to sit outside in the summer, and that's the reason why we are doing this. This is a small restaurant owned by a friend of mine and me, and we just try to add something to the restaurant every year as we save money. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this item? On up and state your name and address for the record,
Good
please.
afternoon. My name's Ken Lundell. I live at 2925 33rd, 3 doors north of Sonora. I'm opposed primarily because of the parking situation. I've got a large family. My elderly mother-in-law lives next door to me. She's 2 doors down from Sonora, and big Catholic family. I mean, we got a lot of company and very little parking. With their employees parking on the street, I watch them every day park and walk back to the restaurant. The cars are parked there for, several hours at a time. I have no problem with them wanting to expand his business. I mean, I understand it's important to a business owner to want your business to grow, but at some point you have to realize that you're outgrowing your facility. My big concern is parking. Thank you.
Any further individuals that want to speak to this item? Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Couple of just brief questions here, as I promised I would ask Mr. Wilson. The first is, what is the square footage, Mr. Wilson, of the addition, and how does that relate to the public right-of-way?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I did reverse the numbers on the number of seats being added. The number of seats being added is 24 seats, not 48. So they're adding 24 seats to a 44-seat patio, and the total seats in that patio will be 68. The width of the patio is 20 feet. 5 feet of it is on the city's interior boulevard with a encroachment permit, which allows the pavers and a privacy fence screen. So the entire dimension of the new area is 20 foot width and 24 length.
Okay, thank
For
you.
a total of 24 seats.
Total of 24 seats as opposed to 48 seats. Thank you. And then, I would just ask that that the owner and then the other individuals sort of discuss sort of a strategy to work out the issue of urination following leaving the bar, as well as noise. So if there could be kind of a strategy to deal with that as people exit, that would be wonderful. Mr. Wilson, I heard another question regarding the dumpster location. Do you know where the location is exactly on the site plan?
Mr. Chair, on the site plan, the trash enclosure is located in a place where the rubbish truck can service it, and it will take up 2 parking spaces in the normal design. If they are not using that and their dumpsters are using other parking spaces, that's something we'll check right away.
Okay. Anyone else have any further questions right now for staff? Seeing none, Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Councilmember Fry. So I just wanted to say briefly, I'm hearing the concerns, and I'm also very appreciative of the business owner's hard work. It's not easy to open up a business and grow it and maintain it. I will say that some of the challenges that my residents have faced with parking have been mitigated through some partnership with Lake Street Council to support and incentivize clients coming to some of these businesses using public transit and biking. So I don't know if you guys have bike racks in front of Sonora Grill, but I think that's a great thing if you do. And doing some creative promotional partnering with Lake Street Council and other business nodes, business associations in your area might be a way to help incentivize people to use public transit, walking and biking to come to your business to help address some of the residents' concerns around parking, in addition to what you've mentioned where, the city staff can certainly help navigate some of these conversations about what does it mean to have a healthy, thriving commercial corridor in an area that is growing. So with that, I would like to say, congratulations for maintaining a successful business, especially now that we are moving forward into a time where I think we're going to be challenged in different ways. I think it's important for all of us to work together to figure out how to maintain Minneapolis's thriving nature. So with that, I would like to advance and move forward the staff report.
Thank you, Councilmember Cano. Councilmember Cano has moved the staff report and specifically this item forward. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no, and that item passes. Item number 6 is the Big Cheese Company, doing business as Rascal's Wine and Cheese Bar at 901 Nicollet Mall. Here to present is Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Big Cheese Company, doing business as Haskell's Wine and Cheese Bar at 901 Nicollet Mall, is a new business seeking an on-sale wine and strong beer license to be operated in conjunction with their restaurant. Dunn Brothers formerly operated a restaurant and sidewalk cafe in this site. This is in downtown West neighborhood in the 7th Ward. They'll have seating inside for 28 and seating outside on a sidewalk cafe for 20. John Farrell Jr. is the 100% owner of this business. Public hearing is required for this application. We did mail a notification to all residents and property owners within 400 feet of this address. We also notified the Minneapolis Downtown Neighborhood Association and the Warehouse District Business Association. We had no responses for or against this application. It seems to meet all of our requirements, and staff's recommendation is approval.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone here to speak to item number 6, Big Cheese Company? Please. Thank you for being here. State your name and address, please.
My name's Ted Farrell. 81 South 9th Street is where I do business, and I live at 1311 Tyrol Trail, Golden Valley, Minnesota. Chairman and Councilman, my name's Ted Farrell. I'm representing the Big Cheese. Big Cheese was founded back in 1973, and since 1988, we've resided in the Young Quinlan building at 81 South 9th Street. And once the Dunn Brothers facility was vacated, we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to unplug that business, which is currently about 30 feet down the hallway, and move it down and expose it to hopefully this brand new and lovely Nicollet Mall to get exposure. We currently do all kinds of takeaway sandwiches, coffees. We'll be expanding more on the coffees, etc. But we thought it would be a great addition not only to our business, but to the city to open up this wine and cheese bar to explore different things and to have people have a little taste and try some craft beers and things like that. So that's, if you have any.
I agree. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this item? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and go ahead and move approval of this item. I agree. It's going to be a tremendous addition in Nicollet Mall, and I think having some additional retail and food options on that particular location will be wonderful. Any discussion? All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. That item passes. Moving on to item number 7, Tinto Cucino and Cantina, doing business as Tinto Kitchen at 4959 Penn Avenue South. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have an application from Tinto Cucina and Cantina LLC, doing business as Tinto Kitchen. Proposed site is 4959 Penn Avenue South. They're seeking an on-sale wine and strong beer license, Class C2. The applicant will be opening a full-service restaurant serving wine and strong beer. And this location was previously a Bruegger's Bagel restaurant, who still operates in a portion of this building. This is in the Lyndhurst neighborhood in Ward 13 and adjoins the Fulton neighborhood. The zoning administrator has determined that 4 off-street parking spaces are required for this use, and this site has a 10-space parking lot that is shared with the adjacent Bruegger's Bagels. Tinto Kitchen LLC is a Minnesota corporation and owned by Rebecca Illingworth, and she is the 100% owner. Public hearing is required for this application. We notified all property owners within 600 feet of this address. We also notified the Lyndhurst and Fulton neighborhood groups of today's public hearing. We received 10 responses from that mailing. 3 of those were opposed and 7 were in support. The 3 opposed were concerned about the parking pressure that this addition might put on the neighborhood on-street parking areas. And 1 was concerned with amplified sound on the patio, which in this case is not permitted and not going to be used. With that, staff's recommendation is approval.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing for item number 7, Tinto Cucina and Cantina. Anybody here to speak to this item? Anyone here to speak to this item? Anyone here? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move approval of this license request, item number 7.
Councilmember Quincy has moved approval of item number 7. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no, and that item passes. Item number 8 is Upstairs Circus. Minneapolis, doing business as Upstairs Circus at 121 Washington Avenue. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have an application by Upstairs Circus Minneapolis, LLC, doing business as Upstairs Circus. They propose to operate at 121 Washington Avenue North, and they're seeking an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales, Class E. This space was formerly occupied by an adult entertainment establishment. This is in the downtown west neighborhood in Ward 3. You'll have seating indoors for 112 persons and outside, none at this time. Principal owners of this company are Shannon Schmidt, Randy Schmidt, Kelly Johansson, and Matthew Johansson. This will be a dining and drinking establishment offering tools and supplies and instructions to customers to do arts and crafts while they're there.
That's great.
A public hearing is required for this application. 117 notices were mailed to residents and property owners within 400 feet. We also notified the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association and the Warehouse District Business Association of today's public hearing. We received no responses. The application seems to meet all of our requirements and are recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. What used to be there? I'm trying to place it. What used to be there?
Sex World.
On the bottom side, though. Yeah, on the top side, too?
It was adjacent. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It was adjacent to Sex World.
Okay,
There was
okay.
another business there.
Yeah. Right. All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anyone here to speak to this item? Please state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Shannon Schmidt, and we will be doing business at 121 Washington Avenue North. I'm one of the owners of the Upstairs Circus, and we're just looking forward to being a part of the community and having people come in and do some DIY projects and enjoy themselves. So thanks.
Thank you. We're very excited to have you, by the way. Anyone else here to speak to this item? Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Note that Sex World is still there. Don't worry, it's just been moved around the side. We've added several other businesses as well, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the investment in that particular location. I think the building looks great. The space, I think, will be wonderful, and I think the concept that you're pushing through Upstairs Circus is going to be a winner. So thank you. I'm going to move approval of this item, and anyone want to talk about it? All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no, and that item passes. Item number 9, Walgreens, 2650 Hennepin Avenue. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Walgreens Company, doing business as Walgreens at 2650 Hennepin Avenue, is seeking an extended hours license. This is a recently constructed Walgreens that just began operation in March of 2017. And again, Walgreens is requesting to operate 24 hours daily. Currently, their lawful hours allowed in that zoning district are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Walgreens management met with the inspector of the 5th precinct to do a full security review for this application. The inspector of the precinct approves of their security plan. This particular business has an extensive security camera system, both inside and outside, that is monitored. Since the time of the notification of this public hearing, which is a 21-day notification requirement, the city has received several complaints about the bright lights from the parking lot. As this is newly constructed, they're just instigating the new lights in the parking lot, interior lights, and other issues related to the conditional use permit for this site, such as no right turn signs off some areas and non-conforming issues related to the drive-through. So at this time, we are recommending that we hold the public hearing. We did notify all residents and property owners within 300 feet of this premises. We also notified the East Isles Residents Association and the South Hennepin Business Association of today's public hearing. We received 6 responses. 2 were in support of the extended hours application. 4 were opposed. Generally, the opposition related to the lighting, the noise, security, late night noise from the drive-through, etc. So at this point, due to the zoning issues, there's likely going to be some more zoning land use application work required. So at this time, staff's going to recommend that you postpone approval or action on this item until the underlying zoning issues are resolved.
Okay.
But recommend that you hold the public hearing since we've noticed it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Councilmember Quincy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think that's very helpful to have those other issues resolved. My question was really one of the ones that had come up as part of the comments was about the hours of operation of the drive-through itself and whether that could be restricted or not. That could be part of the issues taken up in the zoning issue, perhaps, on that thing. So I just wanted to air that as the question from one of the residents in the area. I don't know if staff could respond to that or if that's something that would also be put off for later.
Mr. Chair, Kimberly Holing from our zoning office is here to answer a couple questions like that.
Thank you.
Please, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, council members. I'm Kimberly Holing in Zoning Administration. I'm the planner that took this through the public hearing about 1.5 years ago for the conditional use permit for the drive-through, or actually it wasn't a conditional use permit, for site plan review and a minor subdivision, and there were some conditions of approval attached that I'll try to keep this brief, but the history is such that when this came through, the drive-through was a permitted use. The property was zoned C2 without the presence of a pedestrian-oriented overlay district. The project was somewhat controversial. There was a rezoning study that followed its approval that resulted in the pedestrian-oriented overlay district being extended up Hennepin. So that now is present on this site. So while the property was under construction, actually the drive-through became non-conforming. So the store itself is conforming. Zoning staff didn't have an issue with the 24-hour operations for the store. But if the drive-through wants 24-hour operations, it's the position of zoning staff that an expansion of non-conforming use would be required for the drive-through, and that would require a separate public hearing before the Planning Commission. And then on the enforcement issues, the no right-hand turn sign is up, and the property owner is actively working with zoning enforcement staff on getting the lighting issues resolved, but that does remain outstanding at this time.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Before I open the public hearing, Mr. Wilson, what's the delay that you're looking for? How long? Just postponed until you guys come back again?
Mr. Chair, I would think it'd be at least a couple council cycles before they could get onto a zoning and planning or planning commission.
Okay, so we'll just postpone waiting for you to report back. Okay.
Yes.
I will open the public hearing now. Anyone here to speak to this item? Please, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Walls from Walgreens, and actually I'm from our corporate office. So my address is 3550 North Lakeshore Drive, Chicago, Illinois. I do have our local store manager who can speak to some of the issues. When we applied for the 24-hour license, we heard from Councilmember Goodman's office about the concerns regarding the lighting. I've seen the pictures of the lighting in this individual's house, and I agree it is a problem. It is something we are actively working to correct, and that's something the store manager can speak to, the steps that we've taken as early as a few days ago, working with contractors and consultants to get the issue fixed as soon as possible. The issue as it relates to the 24-hour drive-through, we understand there is a zoning change that needs to be made, but if we could move forward with the 24-hour license for the store operations, that's something the store manager can also speak to. It's important. We have 8 full-time employees that it impacts their hours and their availability to work, and also impacts our ability to be the only Minneapolis in-store pharmacy for fertility specialty. And so it limits our access to people who need those resources as well, not having that 24-hour store availability. So now I'd like to introduce Jason Neiman, who's our store manager, if that's appropriate, who can answer some specific, or talk specifically to the steps we're taking as it relates to the lighting, because we do agree that that is an issue.
Thank you. My name is Jason. I'm the store manager at 2650 Hennepin Avenue at the Walgreens store there. My home address is 4362 Braddock Trail in Eagan. The reason we would like 24-hour availability is obviously for convenience and emergency medication access. We would become the closest 24-hour location to both HC, MC, and Abbott Northwestern hospitals. And as Kimberly spoke to, we are infertility pharmacy within Minnesota. We're the one and only retail clinic in the entire state for access of these highly needed medications. We are also a center of excellence for HIV medications and center of excellence for compounding, which those overnight hours is when we are able to do those compounding medications and have the time to do so. We are also a 24-hour support center for the community clinic, which is located off of Lindale, which does a lot of oncology medications. I am familiar with the drive concerns, and one of the things I would like to let you be aware of is we would be in compliant or willing to operate that drive-through from the hours of 8 to 10 as we currently are until we can go through the new licensing requirements that are needed for that. This location moved 3 blocks south in March. We've been running in this neighborhood for over 25 years, and we've been 24-hour status for the last 10 of those years. So the neighborhood and the customers have come to expect that 24-hour convenience. When the site plan was approved, there was 24-hour talk, and this was just a glitch in the business application did not have the proper hours at original application time. So we're here today to rectify that. As others have said, the signage for the right turn onto 27th has been corrected. As far as the lighting issues I can talk to, we have shut off the main pole light within our parking lot today. So tonight we will evaluate what the lighting situation becomes at that point, and tomorrow morning we will take readings on all lighting around the property line to see what more steps need to be done and taken care of. They've also requested that a photometric study be completed to kind of figure out what we need. Instead of making quick corrections, we want to make sure we do it right. This not being 24 hours would also impact potentially 8 full-time employees that currently run on our 24-hour staff. So thank you.
Please state your name and your address.
Good afternoon. My name is James Berry. I live at 3508 Colfax Avenue South, and I'm here because I'm a Walgreens customer. As previous speaker has said, we've come to expect a 24-hour availability. Also, I think the neighborhood is a little too dense to be without access to medications if needed. 46th and Minnehaha or Hiawatha is a long way to go if you're really needing something. So as a consumer, and to help Minneapolis's image as a big city, which do have 24-hour functions, I'm suggesting that you vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this?
Yes, my name is Anthony Bosque. I'm 2641 Humboldt Avenue South, which is directly behind the new Walgreens at 2650 Hennepin. And I'm one of the people who is troubled by the lighting on site, which is, I understand that you need to light your parking lot, but this also lights my backyard and my neighbor's backyard and my house and my bedroom. In fact, I sent Ms. Amanda Chavez some photographs, and also Councilmember Goodman's office some photographs that show you can read the newspaper in my house with no lighting other than this parking lot light. I'm not in principle opposed to 24-hour operation. I'm a Walgreens customer, but my understanding from my communication with Councilmember Goodman's staff has been that Walgreens hasn't been very responsive to this concern or any others. This is actually the first I've heard. If the light's off, it must have happened between when I left my house and when these guys shut it off, because it was on this morning. I'm opposed to moving ahead with this until I see some results and sort of some kind of shading that prevents the lights from really ruining the atmosphere on my property.
Thank you. Please. Yeah, you had a long walk there.
Hi, I'm Nick Rasculi. I live at 2643 Humboldt, directly behind the Walgreens.
Can you repeat your name one more time? I just didn't know.
Nick Rasculi.
Okay.
I've had the privilege to live next to my second development of a Walgreens on Hennepin Avenue. I lived on the 2400 block of Girard when they built the last one. I have no problems with it at all. I have no problems with the 24 hours for the store. Two issues going on now, or maybe three. First one is the lighting. It's pretty over the top. So I think we're moving in that direction. I've been communicating with Councilwoman Goodman, and my concern with that is, to reiterate Anthony's point, is her words, you can verify it with her, Walgreens hasn't been very cooperative in dealing with the issues that have come up so far. So that would be my only concern there, is just that we're proactive, find something we can all live with. I think there'd probably be a fairly cost-effective solution by putting shielding or something over the lights that they don't have to spend a lot of money. I can appreciate how expensive it is to do business along Hennepin Avenue. I can also appreciate how important that corridor is for our neighborhood and for the city. So I totally get why, from a business standpoint, opening 24 hours makes sense, or open it 24 hours at the other location. No issues that I'm aware of. I don't live right next to that one now. But my other concern would be the drive-through. For one, there is noise and light and lots of issues with the drive-through during regular business hours. And as I understood from the way the ordinance reads, up till 10, 11 o'clock, I see no issue with that at all. My concern would be middle of the night driving back there. And I also would question the business need for that. I mean, is there really going to be a run on pharmaceuticals in the middle of the night where somebody can't get out of their car and go get their whatever drugs they need? And they don't have a drive-through at the current location, so that shouldn't affect current employment. So that would be my concern there. I would think, I think it was 10 o'clock and then 11 o'clock on weekend nights would suffice for a drive-through hours. But otherwise, at 24 hours, I think obviously we want a healthy business there. It's good for everybody. So, thank you.
Anyone else here to speak to this item? Anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Mr. Wilson, are there any issues with the drive-through being open 24 hours? It was an interesting question as opposed to the store. I think everybody agrees. I would think that we eventually want to get to the point where the store is open 24 hours and everybody has access round the clock. What are your thoughts on the drive-through?
Mr. Chair, the underlying issue is it's not permitted by the new pedestrian overlay district, so we would not recommend that the drive-through be operated 24 hours as opposed to the store would be allowed to with this license that is before us today. And we don't have very many objections to the 24-hour operation of the store if they comply with their turn sign, their door issue, and their lighting. So.
Okay. Any further questions for staff on this item? Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll move to postpone, of course, with the goal of getting this place open and up and running on a 24-hour basis. But clearly, we need to deal with the lighting issue. Any further discussion on that item? Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. And that item passes. The final item for today is number 10, which is Sunday liquor sales ordinance. This is basically just bringing us into in accord with what is mandated, or not mandated, with what is now allowed by the state for the first time in how many years, Mr. Wilson?
Mr. Chair, it's been prohibited in Minnesota to operate an off-sale liquor store since 1935.
Wow. Anything else that you, let's see, who's presenting here? Is it you? It's you. What else do we have on this particular topic?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have an amendment before the committee today that will align Minneapolis ordinance with a recently passed state statute to allow off-sale liquor stores to operate on Sundays. Our proposed amendment would align us exactly with the state law, which says that you can allow off sales on Sundays from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. This change does require a public hearing, so we notified all off-sale, currently licensed off-sale liquor stores in Minneapolis, all neighborhood organizations, and all business associations, and we put this proposed amendment on our website announcing today's public hearing. We received 2 responses. One was opposed and particularly didn't like the concept of stores being open near university areas on Sundays. And one was in support but indicated that the hours should be earlier than 11 a.m. The state law does allow hours from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Cities can be more restrictive, but not less. So the Minneapolis City Council couldn't make the hours earlier on a Sunday. Staff finds that this is a very small change. We're not requiring additional licensure or fees from our liquor stores. We're just changing the hours to align with state law. And staff recommends that you approve it.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing on this item. Anyone here to speak? I'm trying to make this a little more exciting, so anyone who wants to speak, this is kind of a momentous occasion. It would be great if you could come up and argue like staunchly in favor or opposed to it. Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll move approval of this item. And just note that this is an historic event. It was since 1935 that liquor was able to be sold on Sundays in Minneapolis or anywhere in the state of Minnesota. I'll note that this council has made several pro liquor and alcohol regulations. In fact, we've even taken quite a bit of a laissez-faire approach with quite a bit of it. I mean, we now have the Bloody Mary law, which allows you to have a Bloody Mary prior to 9 a.m. We got rid of 60-40 liquor regulations, 70-30 liquor regulations. We're allowing alcohol in the Commons Park on select occasions. And now, of course, following the state's lead, although it's taken them quite a bit of time to do it, we are going to have sales on Sundays. So I think it just kind of makes sense. But anyone else want to speak to this item? Any further discussion? No. Seeing none, all those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no, and that item passes. Seeing we have no further business before us, we are adjourned. Thank you.